Hello there. Welcome back to another week of delightful discussions. I am super excited to share with you my guest today. So, at 48 Days, we love company culture. We are always researching and creating trainings to help companies create a culture that their team brags about. And I recently met my guest and heard her story and one of the ways that they help companies to incentivize their teams. And I knew immediately that I had to share her with you. Hi there. In case you don't know who I am, I'm Mariah Young, First Impressions Director at the 48 Days Connect and Culture team. I cannot wait to share with you. Make sure you grab your coffee or some water. We're going to have a great conversation. So make sure you stay tuned. I'll be right back. All right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I cannot wait to share my guest with you. Danene is an amazing woman. She's got her kiddos all grown up. She's built this fun career. And I'm not going to share too much with you because I want her to share it. I love her story. I absolutely think she is a gem. She has some great, wonderful knowledge, and she's worked hard to get to where she is. So, without further ado, I bring to you Danene Dustin. Yay!
Hi, Mariah.
Welcome. Oh my gosh.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm so thrilled to be here with you.
I am super excited to have you on here. Danene, can you first share with us, what do you do?
Well, I create and contract and sell exotic trips to those organizations that reward their high achievers, their top achievers with an all expense paid trip. Instead of, that bonus at the end of the year, just a kind of impersonal check. I have clients that want to incentivize and motivate their employees and partners with travel.
I absolutely love that. It is super duper exciting to think about all the possibilities. I mean, I'm sure I can't even imagine what that is.
It's so pretty endless.
Yeah, I can. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Actually, I did not prep you with this question, but could you give us an example maybe of a couple of trips that you have enjoyed that you've put together?
Oh, I would love to do that, Mariah. Thank you. Probably to date, and I've been doing this 7.5 years now. One of the best trips I ever did for my client was we went to Marrakesh, Morocco for 3 nights. And then we flew to Cascais, Portugal for another 3 nights. Cascais is about 30 minutes out of Lisbon, right on the ocean. And we had an oceanfront property and did so many beautiful dinners and excursions, and it turned out to be so kind of over the top. The company owner at the farewell dinner even said that they've been doing these trips for 25 years with a different partner. This was the first time they partnered with us, and he said this was hands down the best trip they'd ever done in 25 years. So that was really exciting that so many of the people on that particular trip are so well traveled. But these were 2 destinations hardly anyone there had been to. And so it was really so exciting to see their reaction to these destinations. Yeah.
That's exciting. Okay, I do have a question to that, but I think maybe it will follow up a little bit later. So can you just tell us your story on how you even got into this industry? Because let me tell you, I've looked, and you probably already know this, there's a lot of scams out there for getting involved in the travel industry. I'm so curious about your story, how you got into it, and how you've gotten to where you are today.
I would love to share that with you. It's so long, but I'm going to make it as short as possible so I don't bore everybody. So as long as I can remember, I really wanted, in fact, I got my college degree way, way back in travel and tourism from Brigham Young University. So my plan was always to do something in the travel industry. I just wasn't quite sure what it was. For a short time, I thought it was to be a flight attendant. But then I decided against that. That was in 2014. But I kept kind of throwing it out to the universe and telling people that I've got to find something where I can travel and get paid to see exotic destinations. And so eventually a job posting showed up on Glassdoor, and it was for this job as a global sales executive with Morris Meetings and Incentives in downtown Salt Lake City. And all my previous jobs I'd received through knowing people in the company for the most part. So I went to work trying to figure out who I knew here or if any of my connections knew anyone here, and no one did. So I thought, oh, this is probably not going to work out then. Because we all know the better connected you are, it just helps in finding jobs. So I actually ended up calling my my now boss, and I left him a voicemail asking that he'd call me back, and he did. And I just said to him, Corey, when can I come in and prove to you that I am the one for this position? And a week later, I was in here, and after about 6 weeks of kind of some rigorous interviews and projects that I needed to do, they offered me the job. And I have to tell you, I was beyond giddy about it. I couldn't even believe it was real. One of the happiest days of my life, but also I was pretty scared because it's 100% commission job. Initially, there's a small salary, but then you're required within a short amount of time to be off the salary and on to 100% commission. And so I really was very hesitant to accept the job ultimately. But bless my husband, he said, you need to go for it. If it doesn't work out, you'll figure something else out. So I said yes. And here we are 7.5 years later. And it's worked out. It's been a lot of work. I had to build, my book of business from scratch. I didn't have any leads, nothing like that. So I've had to really dig in and not let off the brakes, I guess you could say. But it's really been the best thing for me.
And because we have so many entrepreneurs in our audience, can you share a little bit about, getting lead generation, getting people, that is not an easy task. Can you share with us, maybe a couple of, I know we're not doing a lunch and learn today, but can you just share with us a couple of quick, easy things that you did to build that lead list? Would you mind sharing that?
Oh, heavens no. Probably the number one for me, Mariah, was luckily I had the 2 jobs I'd had previous to this one. I was required to attend a lot of networking events and have a lot of, I was doing recruiting. And so I had a job where I recruited people to come and work at the company. And then the job before that, I was recruiting companies to post jobs for internships and jobs up at Utah State where I was working. And so it really had set me up, I guess you could say, for success, because I already had a list of connections, probably 200 names at least in length. And so even before I officially started here, I was meeting with people, going to lunch, going to get a drink in the morning or whatever, to start talking to them about what it was I was going to start doing. And the one thing I have to still remind myself, Mariah, is when I meet someone and I know for a fact that he or she is never going to be doing incentive travel, I used to it's terrible to say, but just kind of dismiss them in terms of, not dismiss them as a person, but just as somebody I'm going to continue talking to about, business opportunities or things like that. But you don't know who they are connected to. So I'll just give you a short example. Years ago, one of my friends who does hair out of her house, has her own hair salon. We were talking all about my job, and quite honestly, I didn't want to give her all these details because I thought she doesn't probably really care, and I'm sure she could never use my services, right? Well, in telling her what I did, she goes, "Oh, my son works for so-and-so. They do incentive trips." And it was such a great reminder that almost anyone you talk to could have a connection, a mother, a father, a son, a daughter, a girlfriend, a boyfriend, whatever, a husband, a wife, who could use your services. You just never know who they're connected to that could, you can collaborate with.
That is networking gold right there.
Everybody knows somebody that could use you, most likely.
Yeah, I
Even
feel
if
like
they
that was
can't.
like mic drop moment. Because it's true. We go to these networking events and so many, there is an older mindset of like, well, if I can't directly work with you, then why am I going to spend any time with you? But it's really more about relationship building. And yeah, I love that.
Definitely. And you don't know, maybe right now they can't use your services, but down the road they can. But ultimately, it is like you just said, it's so important to always recognize that these are people and relationships matter, whether you end up partnering in business or not. It just enriches everyone's lives, I feel, when you have strong connections with people in the community and just out in the world.
I agree. I think that's really a life building skill too, right? We should be always building relationships.
Yeah,
I love that.
definitely.
So, I know we kind of already did this, but I would love to know, are there any other stories from your travels or from your work that you are able to share? I know if anyone's like me, they want to hear everything, right? We could sit here on an hour, right? And probably just ask you story after story. But are there any particular that you just love and want to share?
Well, I should say I've said more times than once to people here that I work with that we should have a reality show showing our industry and the behind the scenes. There's the good, the bad, and the ugly. So I just remember when I first got this job and we were talking about being on site, because I go on site with my clients when they're doing these big trips, right? And depending on the size, I'll bring other people to help manage the attendees, the VIPs, that sort of thing, the company owners. And I still remember one of my colleagues saying, now, when you kind of prepping me when I was just first starting out and giving me this example, that you're waiting at the entry of the hotel because there's a motor coach that's supposed to be coming to take everyone, maybe it's back to the airport at the end of the trip or on an excursion. And she said, they're late, like they were supposed to be there 15 minutes ago and the motor coach still isn't there. And she said, you can't be like, oh my gosh, the motor coach isn't here. You have to be on your phone. She said, you have your phone and you're texting, your tour operator or whomever saying, where the heck are you right now? But to everyone else, you're saying, everything's fine. We're good. The motor coach will be here shortly. Just hang tight and I'll come and get you when it's here. And here you're just like, where are you? But things like that, just trying to make everyone's visions of how this trip is supposed to turn out come true. Woo, talk about anxiety. But probably this story's funny now. When it was happening, it wasn't so funny. What happened was I had a group of, 500, I want to say, in the Bahamas, and we were staying at the Atlantis, which is a beautiful, resort. And the client, when we've been, all the pre-planning that you do when you're contracting and everything, I really want to get the vision of my client, and I want to do all I can to bring that to pass for him or her. And she wanted to swim with the pigs in the Bahamas. So we had worked with our tour operator in going to this island where we were going to swim with the pigs and have a lunch there and just beach day. Well, the morning that we are leaving to go on this excursion, we have this huge thing at our hospitality desk, big poster showing what the activity is for the day, and it details everything. Well, one of the employees from the hotel that I'd been working with closely during my stay there came over and said, Danene, you're going to this island to swim with pigs. I said, yeah, we're so excited. And he said, pigs are not on that island. I said, what? But we contracted this like a year ago. And this is the one thing that the company owner wants to do. And he goes, no. And I said, well, so in my mind, of course, I'm like, oh, he's confused. I'm sure he's confused. So I get a hold of my tour operator, local people there, the boots on the ground that take care of us at all of our destinations. And she said, yeah, sorry, I don't think that is true. And I'm like, what? All along we've had this conversation that they're going to swim with pigs. That was really a hard pill to swallow. And to have to tell our client that there were no pigs on the island, that was really not pleasant. So ever since then, I communicate and over communicate to make sure everything that we have contracted and we have promised the client is going to happen, happens. Because that was a really, really bad experience. She did not take it well. We'll say that. Ultimately, it was still a beautiful trip and we did lovely things on the island. Everyone seemed to kind of forget about it as time went on. But yeah, that
would be rough. And I do have to ask, okay, is this actually swimming with like pigs? Like
pigs? And come to find out, there is an island that does that. It's the Exumas, one of the islands in the Bahamas. But I mean, ultimately they said, well, there was a pig on this particular island that we went to, but it was in hiding when we went there. And so it was kind of like, now that I know what I know, I mean, if you go and swim with the groups of pigs that people have seen on social media and out there, it's a completely different island and it's a long ways away from Nassau and would have been a very costly excursion that would have been out of budget. So there was just a lot of kind of some miscommunication along the way.
Oh my gosh.
So I have seen videos of all these pigs going out and swimming in the ocean and you can kind of just swim around with them.
Oh my gosh. So how did you pivot on that? What did you guys end up doing?
You know, like you said, this was at the very beginning of my career. So I want to say that we offered extra things, that they brought in jet skis and did some extra things. We refunded her some money, which doesn't fix anything in my opinion. She wanted the experience. She doesn't want the money, but I still felt like we needed to give back some money for not having met her expectation that she was, expecting to have. And just some other stories across you have to deal with things like people that have had a little too much to drink that are falling into the swimming pools. We've dealt with a girl that cut her leg open from the top of her leg down to her ankle on a wreck on an ATV. She went on an excursion that wasn't, vetted, with a company that was not vetted, didn't have insurance, they weren't licensed. So I'm very, very big into that kind of thing, just following the rules.
Yeah.
And usually things turn out pretty well when you just kind of follow the rules and go through proper vetted companies and things like that.
Wow. I am sure. Okay. So, wow. So many things. I'm sure there are questions which I want to go ahead and make sure that we plug right now. Guys, if you have questions for Danene, please feel free to leave them in the comments, whether you're watching right now with us or you're watching the replay. Please feel free to do so. I will pass them along. So, oh my gosh, there's so many stories I'm sure that you could share. And I'm wondering if we already covered this. However, I'm going to ask it anyways. Is there one like bold move that you've made over your career that you can see directly now looking back that has led to where you are today?
Oh, that's such a good question. I don't know if it's a bold move or it's just kind of how I'm wired. And it's for good and for bad, I have to say, Mariah. When I make my mind up and dig into something, like I am like a bulldog and I don't let go until, now if somebody were to say to me flat out, Danene, I don't want to hear from you anymore. We will not be using your services. I'm not going to keep bothering them. But basically until I hear that absolute no, I'm going to keep touching base and checking in. And I'm very tenacious and very persistent. Maybe an example of that is for 2024. Well, in 2023, so the year we're in right now, I had sold 5 full service trips. For 2024, I have already sold 17. So many of those are clients I've been trying to have them allow me to just do proposals for them, or I've done proposals in the past and they've gone a different direction. And I just keep saying, let me try one more time. Let me try a third time. And it's just crazy how so many prospective clients are now my clients starting in 2024, because I just pretty much don't take for no for an answer. I am respectful. I don't want to give the wrong impression. I don't breathe down people's necks. I used to in the beginning. I would check back. And I think that came across as probably desperate and probably not the most professional thing to be doing. And now once I send a proposal, I'll check back once or twice. And if I don't hear from you or you're just not interested, I move on, because I have plenty of other people that want to work with me and use our services. And I just know that I provide such value, and that there are those out there that will want to take advantage of that. And I don't need to worry about the ones that kind of have gone dark on me anymore like I used to. Forge ahead.
Man, I don't even know if you realize the gold that you were dropping in these. That was so, so good. One thing that we talk about with our entrepreneurs all the time is nurture marketing, continuing to share value. And, you do have to continue to push and push and push and push. And like you said, though, not rudely, not desperately, just add value. Just continue to add value. Yeah. Oh,
exactly. Yeah. I have a database I've created. I created it during COVID, and we had more time on our hands because, of course, there was really not much travel going on during COVID. And it's probably up to over 200 client and prospective client names with email addresses and things. And during COVID, I would send birthday treats, birthday cards, half birthday cards. I have a stack of half birthday cards. I thought that was kind of fun, just to keep them, me in their forefront of their mind, hopefully. But now I don't have I could be a little more probably organized or have a better idea of what I'm doing. But I would say 6 to 8 weeks, I use that list and send out maybe something like the 2024 projected top 10 destinations for incentive travel. Just a little blip, maybe I've gone on a really, really cool trip myself, and I share some photos and just a short little recap of that trip, so they get some ideas of maybe where they'd want to take their groups and things like that. So I stay in touch, several times a year with that database of prospective clients and current clients. And I think that's helped me as well to keep things moving along.
I love that. Okay. Well, I feel like already you've given us so much. We definitely could have done a lunch and learn. Oh my goodness.
Well, maybe next time.
You're so informative. We will start to wrap up though here as we are getting to our time. But what is something fun? I feel like you probably have a ton of this. Fun, funny, or interesting that you could share.
One that I think is kind of fun is, and interesting too, is I get invited on trips where I'm hosted. So like tour operators, CVBs, hotels, resorts, airlines, they invite me to come on these trips where they pay for me, to go and see the destination, so that in turn, I will hopefully come back and then sell that to my clients, right? So a couple of years ago, I got to go to Rwanda and go gorilla trekking. So that's when you go out into the rainforest and you actually go with a guide, and you find these gorilla families in their home, in their habitat. And so the first day we went to and found this gorilla family. It was like 8 a.m. when we found them. They were still asleep. And we came around the corner. I got to be the first one to see this gorilla family. And the guides, they know about 14 phrases where they can talk to the gorillas. And so we got to be there with this large family and this little baby. And mind you, it was during COVID. And so we all had to wear masks, even to protect these dear gorillas. But a little baby kept coming to me. And I'm just crouched down like, come to me, please. I want to hold you. But the guide kept doing his talk to he was talking to the baby and telling the baby to leave. So the baby would turn around and run back to its mom. But he then turned around and he came back to me probably 5 times. I'm just like, please let me hold you. It was the most precious, cute, surreal moment, because you're at the top of this mountain and you see all the mist out there in the trees, and you're in the cloud cover. It was so dreamy. That whole trip was just off the charts. But that was just one moment I shall never forget, is just interacting with that little baby gorilla.
I cannot even imagine how amazing that would be. Oh my gosh. So, Danene, I just want to ask you so many questions, but I got to stop myself.
Well,
I feel like we could talk for an hour, right? Easily. I would love to know, and I did not prep you with this question, if there was someone because I feel like there's so many people that want to get into the travel industry right now, right? It's just like influencers, everybody. And I know it's not all attractive and glamorous. You've told me some stories. We won't go there today, but if there was something that you could tell your beginning self, you're just getting into this, is there any like big nugget that you would share with yourself if you were just getting started today?
Wow, I might be stumped on that one. Well, I'm a very homesick person. I always was as a child. And even as an adult, I can get very lonely. Being on the road is very exciting and, can appear to be very glamorous. And there are definitely glamorous moments about it. But I would say just really make sure if you want to go into the travel industry, and because a lot of the jobs in the travel industry do require a significant amount of travel, make sure that you like to be on airplanes, that your personality is wired to be away from home a considerable amount of time, that maybe you're at the stage of life where it's easier to do that than maybe with younger children. I know for myself, the longer I'm in this, the more I'm getting kind of having more boundaries and trying to find ways to be home for important events for my grandchildren, things that I don't want to miss out on, other things with my family, my children, my parents, my husband. So just think long and hard about what it all entails, and then find out for yourself if it's really something that you want to do that can take you away from things that sometimes it's hard to miss. So it's work, it's still work. And a lot of people that I talk to, really the part of like being on a plane and going all the way to Australia or New Zealand, all the places that I go, all these far distances, I love being on a plane. That part doesn't bother me. The travel part itself, going to the airport, the hustle and bustle of the airport, I enjoy the journey. But if you can't even enjoy those parts of it, it may not be for you, because it's pretty intense. It can be really intense, especially these days. There's so many canceled flights and delays and things like that. You have to be ready to handle all those things that are really not in your control. So maybe that's what it kind of boils down to, is knowing that once you're out, once you kind of go into that airport and start out, there's so much out of your control. And if you can't handle that, that might make it a little tricky to follow that path. I don't know if that helps at all.
I think that's actually fantastic. Weigh the cost, right, before you go in. And I think we all see, TikToks and Instagrams and all these things of all the fun parts, but I don't think that piece gets shared enough. Like there's more to it than just being in this beautiful location.
Yeah. I've missed things because my flight was delayed or canceled, family events that I was planning to attend, or, and it was very disheartening. So you just make sure that you're just wired for that kind of thing that I just kind of explained.
I love it. All right. Last thing, then we'll wrap up. So you are not you don't have probably a link or anything like that people could reach out to you. But if someone's watching this and saying, hey, because we do also have an audience of larger businesses as well, we would love to incorporate this into our business. How can they get a hold of you and work with you?
I'd say the best way is just to drop me an email. Is that something? Can we put it in the chat? Yep. Should I put it in the chat?
I can put it into.
Or have you put that in? I would just say.
I'll add it.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Or we have our Morris Meetings and Incentives website.
Okay.
So that's just morrisincentives.com.
Okay.
I think that if you can add that in there, you can find me on there. But really, just directly send me an email. And I would love to discuss with you anything related to your company trip. And if it's a new thing for you and you haven't ever even considered it, I can talk about it with you and discuss how it all should be set up. And because I work with a lot of clients that have never done this before, and we're here to help start you from scratch to make sure it's very successful.
Awesome. I love it. All right. Do you have any final thoughts before we're finished?
Just appreciate you, Mariah. So grateful that we connected. and grateful to be on here, and just wish everyone a fabulous day. And thank you again for this opportunity.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on here, guys. Like I mentioned before, please feel free to put any comments or questions that you might have for Danene into the comment section. Of course, I will forward those on to her. And yeah, I know that I was enriched by this. I'm sure you were as well. And if this is something that you are looking into for your company, make sure you reach out to Danene. I can tell, and I'm sure you can too, that there will be no pressure. And so this is an excellent way to look into this. So thank you so much, Danene, for being here. You are such a gem. I absolutely loved our talk. It was so delightful.
Thank you.
And for everybody else, until next time, guys, live creatively and have a fantastic day. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.